Welcome back to The Rancher's Voice, the podcast where the heart of agriculture meets the pulse of today's industry. From policy changes to pressing issues, The Rancher's Voice dives into the stories that matter most to ag producers.
In each episode, we will cover topics including legislation, leadership, and the agricultural lifestyle. So be sure to subscribe to The Rancher's Voice everywhere podcasts are featured. If podcasts aren't your thing, watch us on the Montana Stock Growers YouTube channel. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Capital Edition. I'm Ellie Brighton, and we have a new face on the podcast with us this week. Ian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. Ian Kane. I'm the membership representative with the Montana Stock Growers. Been here about 2 years, so happy to be on.
Okay, so we just wrapped up week 5, and we are now in week 6 of the legislative session. Things have been busy. As you guys might remember, last week was National Cattlemen's Beef Association's CattleCon in San Antonio. Rayleigh and Ian went to represent the stock growers. I was here in Helena. I think they had a little more fun than I did. Ian, do you want to tell us a little bit about that, what your favorite part was?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a great meeting, great convention. It was wonderful to see producers from around the country gathered to handle the industry's business there in San Antonio. We kicked things off on Monday with the Region 5 meetings, so that's Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado. So we're able to kind of discuss some of the regional challenges we're facing and what the different associations are working on. Then on Tuesday, we kick things off bright and early with the DC issues update from the NCBA team, kind of hearing about the Trump transition and kind of what's going on there in DC. So that was very interesting.
Yeah. Did they seem hopeful or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely, there's a lot of kind of unanswered questions at the moment. We're only a few days into the new administration, but definitely spirits were high. One thing that we've been working on with PPI, then the estate tax, there's a lot of optimism that some of those exemptions will be maintained, if not increased, with this administration. So
great.
For MSGA, that's certainly something that we're looking forward to working on going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then we moved into the committee meetings. Just for some examples of some of those committees, there was Federal Lands and the Tax and Credit Committee, as well as Private Property Rights and the Environmental Management Committees. They all met on Tuesday. So great discussions there. Obviously, our team was split among those meetings, listening in and representing Montanans within those meetings as needed. So.
And who all from Montana went from our exec
leadership
team?
Absolutely. So we had President Leslie Robinson, and then First Vice President Turk Stovall, and Second Vice President Monty Lesh.
So a good little spread. You guys could make it to all the places you had to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's just the folks that were officially representing MSGA. I think we had over 40 different Montanans there. Of course, the Montana Beef Council folks were there as well. Andy Kellum and Jim Steinbeiser, who's Region VP for NCBA, was also there representing. Yeah. So very good contingent of Montanans for sure down in San Antonio.
Yeah, we represented well.
Yes, absolutely. Also, we had the opening general session, which had Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney give a talk there, and it seemed like most people enjoyed what he had to say. He is the founder of Folds of Honor, and so he spoke kind of about the work that they do, helping military and first responder families, whether that's spouse or children, with educational scholarships. And of course, with our crowd, we value the service of the military, and it was great to hear about some of the work they're doing and kind of how his story ties into just pieces that people in the cattle industry can take away from it.
That's awesome. And then we had a Montana social, right?
We did, absolutely. Yep, it was that Tuesday evening. It was very well attended, so definitely appreciate Rabo AgriFinance for their support in there. But we definitely enjoyed being able to host that event to kind of support our folks down in San Antonio and make sure everybody got to see each other and visit during the week.
That's awesome.
On Wednesday, we had the second general session kind of start things off. Dr. Farrell from Oklahoma State gave a talk on the importance of transition planning. One takeaway I had from that is one figure he listed off was there's about $1 trillion worth of farm assets that'll be transitioning in the next 15
Wow.
years. So
Wow.
just kind of putting that pen to paper is
Yeah.
very important, and would definitely encourage anybody listening that if you don't have a transition plan to seek the professionals that can help you, because
Kind
it's
of
very,
fitting for PPI again here.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, very important as we look to keep folks engaged in the next generation and keep this land in production. Um, we also had more committee meetings on Wednesday. Cattle health and well-being was one of those, as well as the live cattle marketing and the international trade committees. I actually sat in on the international trade one, which I found very interesting. Just some figures there that I thought folks might be interested in. We had about $9.56 billion worth of trade in 2024.
Wow.
So definitely a very sizable figure for the industry. That adds about $412 worth of value to every carcass, just for folks that might be looking at a per head basis on how much that impacts our industry.
That's huge.
Yes,
That really, really
absolutely.
adds up. Yeah.
There was also the Ag and Food Policy Committee held on Wednesday, and that was important for us because we did have a directive for NCBA that Montana stock growers brought. This directive was titled Keeping Ags and Land Production, and as part of our work with producer profitability, the MSGA leadership team brought this directive to NCBA to make sure that as they work on developing their strategic plan over the next year, that keeping land and ag production is definitely a top priority for the NCBA organization. It's very important for the long-term sustainability of our family operations and the U.S. food supply, our food security, that this land stays in ag production. So, PPI is a huge priority for Montana stock growers, and so seeing the work that we're doing there, I just want to make sure people are aware of that directive.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those of our listeners who aren't familiar necessarily with NCBA's policy process, I mean, basically what happens is it's very similar to our policy process in state, where a group brings forward this policy, and then it's passed, presented in the committee that it relates to, and then it's passed by the membership body there. And so it's definitely a grassroots process, and we were grateful to have that directive passed. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then kind of finishing up the week, we had the last day was Thursday. They had the General Session 3 with the Califax Market Outlook update, which is always a very popular session. It's been going to NCBA for a long time for that talk, and just some figures that came out of that I thought folks might be interested. They're anticipating the beef production to decline by about 600 million pounds, obviously with our smaller herds. But something that really was, I guess, surprising. So in 2024, our production was actually buoyed quite a bit by a 27-pound year-over-year increase in average carcass weights.
Wow.
So obviously our partners in the feedlot industry were figuring out creative ways to make sure that we still had a robust beef supply. Something else I thought was pretty interesting, just looking over long-term trends within the industry, they had some figures on industry profitability. And just for some examples, the range of 1980 to 1998, the average profitability to share throughout all stages of the industry was $32 a head on average. Looking forward today, 2014 to now, the average is $570 a head to share across all sectors. So the work that producers are doing out in the countryside is making a huge difference in terms of creating that value for the consumer. So I thought that was very encouraging.
That's massive. Yeah, that's very encouraging.
And then I guess kind of to wrap things up, for our Bobcats out there, we did have a Montana State University booth down there representing the land grant here in Montana, and we had a good contingent of the collegiate stock growers group, so definitely want to give them a shout out for their very good representation of the state and of the industry, particularly of the next generation.
Yes.
So all in all, a great week, and we capped things off at the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, and a lot of folks really enjoyed that event. So.
Did you enjoy that event?
I did.
You were one of those
Absolutely,
folks?
Yes.
Good. It sounds like fun. Well, awesome. Sounds like a great week.
Yeah, so Ellie, while we were down there in Texas taking care of the association business on the national level, What was going on here in Helena? Tell me about your week.
Things were good here. They were probably 80 degrees colder, but still good. It was a very busy week for us. It was week 5 of the session, and I think it was probably one of the busiest weeks we've had so far. Maybe it just felt like that because I was by myself. I'm not sure, but quite a few bills, so I'm just going to hit them pretty quick here. We start with Natural Resource Committee. There was a bill to revise the Montana Environmental Policy Act, MEPA, and that bill was essentially just clarify that MEPA is a procedural process, and this is in response to the held decision that the courts came out with this summer. There was a bill about the laws related to the fire suppression account, so clarifying some language here, codifying language around DNRC's fire suppression account. This was one of those bills that we have seen in the House, and it's now being heard in the Senate. There's going to be a few more of those this week, so we're starting to see things kind of get through one chamber and into the next and see repeats here. Then we had a bill that allows water right holders to consent to waive adverse effect analysis in permit or change applications. So that's just to streamline the permitting process for water right holders. It allows applicants to waive the requirement to prove a lack of adverse effects for any water right. Into the appropriations, the money world, we had the FWP budget, so Fish, Wildlife, and Parks budget. As our listeners know, we do go in and support those agencies that we work with a lot. And so FWP's was last week. We went in and supported a lot of their asks there for grizzly bear management, wolf management, those sorts of things. Then in the House Natural Resource Land, we had another water bill, and it was to revise laws related to preliminary determinations for water right permits or change applications. This is an agency bill from DNRC. It is a result of last session's House Bill 114, and we went in to support the cleanup and the fixes that this bill brought forward. In-house ag, there was a bill to allow livestock reimbursement for black bear predation. So we had policy passed at our convention this last December, and that is now tying black bears into the Livestock Loss Board program. So producers can apply for reimbursement if they have a depredation from a black bear. In House Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, there was a bill about revising penalties for criminal trespass when fishing, trapping, hunting, or collecting antlers. It was kind of a bill to make things a little more stringent, protect private property rights, and it means the people that trespass can have their conservation license removed for 24 months. So, and then in Senate Fish and Game, there was a bill to revise landowner preference qualifications for elk license. It basically changes the law there from people can get landowner elk license when they are under contract for a property over 640 acres or own a property for 640 acres. This bill will change it to just people that own the property, kind of removing that under contract piece. We feel that it's a reasonable change to ensure that landowners are the ones getting the preference. And then in Senate Judiciary, we had a bill to revise term lengths of conservation easements. So some of you guys probably have heard of this bill. There was a very big turnout of opponents. Many of our members came to speak or spoke online, and basically the goal of this bill was to only allow conservation easements for 40 years. So it removed perpetual easements, and as we know, many producers use perpetual easements. Conservation easements are a huge tool for transitioning, like Ian talked about, with producer profitability and things like that, getting things on to the next generation. And it's also a tool that many use just to ensure that their land stays in production and doesn't go to development. So stock growers opposed that bill, and like I said, we had many members that drove quite a ways in the snow to oppose it, and we were grateful for that. I will say that the senator, the bill sponsor there, actually tabled the bill immediately. Everyone still gave their comment, but he, I think, saw that there was a lot of pushback and a lot of valid pushback there. So we appreciate him recognizing that and wanting to support producers there.
Well, that's a great story for the grassroots advocacy that we're involved in. And,
absolutely.
The folks of Montana making sure their voice is heard here in Helena.
Yeah, they were heard, and it was awesome. Yeah, so, and then the last bill from last week was in Senate Ag. This is another one of those bills that we've seen now in the House and then in the Senate. It's just to provide for cash lease only bidding for agriculture leases. So, again, moving from crop shares for state trust land leases to a cash bidding process there. I was running around. It was crazy, but it was a good week. A lot of positive bills that we were excited to support and be there for. So it was a good week.
Glad to hear the update, and sure appreciate all your hustle on that since you were holding down the fort while we were all down in the warm weather of Texas.
Thanks for rubbing it in. So coming up this week here, week 6, just a couple of bills I want to hit on. It honestly is a really light week. I guess that's what happens after a busy week. I don't know. But so first we had House Bill 256, which is the creation of a Montana Water Trust and special revenue accounts. So again, this is a bill we mentioned, I think, last week. It was heard in a House committee, and then yesterday on Monday it was in the Appropriations Committee. So we went in and testified in support of the appropriations there for that bill, and hope to see more water storage projects popping up in Montana. There's a few other bills we're keeping an eye on this week. One of them I do want to note is to prohibit the sale of lab-grown meat in the state of Montana. That hearing will be Tuesday at 3 p.m. So also this week we have the MBAR Academy class in Helena.
Yeah.
We're excited. MBAR is our leadership academy through stock growers. And so they're going to come to Helena. We're going to take them to the Capitol and introduce them to legislators. They're going to go to dinner with their own legislators from their districts. And they might get to testify on some bills.
Absolutely, yeah. We're definitely looking forward to having these next generation be here in Helena this week.
Yeah, excited to give them a little taste of what session looks like. So
yes.
I think it'll be great. Well, I think that is it for us this week. We appreciate you joining us. And as always, if you want to learn more about our bills and our positions, go to mtbeef.org. We have a bill tracker on there. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.